The Ashfall Star, a novel. Chapter 1. Millhaven. The forge fire never went out in Millhaven, not even in high summer, and Kestrel Ashgrove had grown up believing this was simply a law of the world, like gravity or her aunt's temper. She fed it coal before dawn and banked it after dusk, and in between, she worked the bellows and swept the cinders and pretended, the way she had pretended since she was 7 years old, that she did not hear the iron singing to her. That was the word she used in her own head, since there was no one to share it with. Singing. Not a sound exactly. More a pressure behind her teeth, a hum along the bones of her arms, whenever she held a piece of hot metal at the exact moment it went soft enough to shape. Other apprentices complained about burns and aching shoulders. Kestrel complained about nothing, because the moment the iron went molten bright under her tongs, some small and secret part of her felt more awake than she did the rest of the day combined. "You're doing it again," said her Aunt Mira, not looking up from the ledger. "Doing what?" "Smiling at the anvil like it told you a joke." Kestrel set down the tongs and wiped her forehead with her wrist, leaving a grey smear she'd have to scrub out later. Millhaven's forge was a squat stone building at the edge of town, close enough to the King's Road that merchants stopped for shoeing and repairs, far enough from Thornmere's capital that no one important ever came looking for anything. That suited Kestrel fine. She had spent 16 years being exactly the kind of person no one came looking for. An orphan, a girl with calluses instead of a dowry, niece to a widow who kept the town's only forge running through sheer stubbornness. "Derenick wants his plough blade by the falling," Mira said. "That's 3 days. Can you manage it and the miller's hinges both?" "I can manage it." Kestrel could always manage it. That wasn't the problem. The problem, which she had never once said aloud, was a small and persistent ache behind her ribs that had nothing to do with work. A feeling that the life fitted around her like a coat one size too small. Sleeves that didn't quite reach her wrists. She loved Mira. She loved the forge in her way. But some nights she stood in the yard and watched the stars come out over the wheat fields and felt something in her chest reach up toward them, wordless and hungry, and she did not know what it wanted or why it frightened her. The falling was 3 nights off. The star shower that came every generation or so, when according to the old wives, the sky wept for the fall of the Sunspire Empire 900 years gone. Children were kept indoors. The Verity Wardens rode a slow circuit through every village reciting the Accord of Ashes, the same words every time. The sky remembers what the earth forgot, and what fell once must never rise. Kestrel had heard the recitation every few years of her life and understood it exactly as well as she understood why bread rose or why lightning struck the tallest tree. It was simply a fact. Inherited, unexamined. She did not know yet that in 3 nights it would stop being someone else's history and become, irrevocably, hers. That evening, Old Thistle came through with his cart of pins and lockworks and copper wire, as he did every few months, trading small repairs for a meal and a corner of the hayloft. He was a stooped man with ink-stained fingers and eyes the unsettling grey-blue of a winter sky, and he had a way of watching Kestrel work that made her feel like a lock he was trying to pick. "You've a fine hand with fire, girl," he said, watching her true a wagon axle. "Finer than a farrier ought to have. Just practice," she said. He said nothing else that night, but before he left the next morning, he pressed something small into her palm, a flat grey stone, cool and unremarkable, threaded on a leather cord. "Wear it under your shirt," he said, low so Mira wouldn't hear. "Especially these next few nights. Humour an old peddler." She wore it. She told herself it was only politeness. 3 nights later, The sky began to fall,